Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Spath, and I'm with the Indiana Center for Middle East Peace in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I think what I'm going to do right away is just share the screen, and we'll just work through the slides on the screen, and then we'll take your questions afterwards. And Tom, I'll try to describe who's on the screen, what's on the screen, and we're welcoming now Mary Siegel. Hi, Mary. Good to see you. Thanks for being on. And Mary was just with me in South Africa too, and is a long time activist for Palestine. Been there many times, and it's great to see you, Mary. So I'm going to share the screen and kind of work through who we're going to see and what we're going to do. So as I said, I'm Michael Spath, and for those of you who don't know me, like I said, I'm with the Indiana Center for Middle East Peace. I've been at this not as long as Mary Siegel has been, but I've been at this since 1998 at this work for the liberation of Palestine and human rights in Palestine. Um, um, I moved back to Fort Wayne to teach religious studies and started to introduce my new friends here in Fort Wayne to my new friends who I had met in Palestine. And our organization grew and grew. And this is my 19th Solidarity Tour. And I've been back to Palestine since 1998, maybe 40 times. So some on my own and some leading Solidarity tours. So, like I say, this is my 19th Solidarity tour, and um, over 260 people have joined me over those previous 18 trips. Like I said, we're the Indiana Center for Middle East Peace, and we've had monthly programs here since 2004. So we've had over 240 um, programs in person and over 100 webinars and interviews with people who are working for justice and peace in Palestine and also in the United States. These are some of the people who will be meeting and some of the places we'll be going. And we'll talk about each one of them as we progress through the slides. And stop me if you have any questions, okay? I don't see all of you there, so yeah, okay, now I see those on the screen. So like I say, Indiana Center for Middle East Peace, and that's the sponsor of the tour. In 2009, the Palestinians, uh, as they took their cue from the 1985 Cairo, South Africa document, in 2008 and 9, the Palestinians said, who are we? What is our situation? And what are we asking from the church at large? And they wrote the Kairos Palestine document. Now, while this was originally a document for the churches around the world, it's been adopted uh, in essence by Palestinian civil society. So Muslim activists and also civil society activists agree with what the Kairos Palestine. They may not agree with all the theology, but they agree with their diagnosis of the situation and their endorsement of boycott, divestment, and sanctions, and this invitation to come and see, go and tell. So I want to be clear. While this has aspects of a religious, I mean, you can't go to Israel and Palestine without seeing some of the religious sites, but really our focus is on meeting with people. So this is not a Holy Land tour. This is a tour where we meet with people, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim, uh, political, religious, secular, civil society, NGOs, uh, people who are working non-violently for justice and human rights. So you can see from the map, and this is a generous map because the West Bank is cut up into all kinds of little pieces. But this particular trip, all of our stops and all of our stays will remain in the West Bank in Palestine. So in previous trips, I've taken people up to the Galilee and seen the Jesus sites up around the Sea of Galilee. This trip, we're staying completely in the West Bank in Palestine and listening to Palestinian stories. So here's some sites in Bethlehem. Those you've been there before, you know these sites. Here's the Church of the Nativity. Here down in the upper left, in the lower left, the uh, the Ibrahimi Mosque, where Abraham and some of the patriarchs and their wives are buried. I'm particularly drawn to this picture in the top center. These are thobes, the traditional dress of Palestinian women, and also the keys that you see. These keys are symbols of refugees' right of return, and we'll talk about that later on. And of course, you can't go to Palestine without talking about olive wood, and this is one of the important olive wood shops in Bethlehem. But like I say, the main part of our, the main part, the main focus of our trip is to visit with the people. So what I'm going to do is in this slideshow, I'm going to focus on the people with whom we'll be meeting. At least hopefully. I mean, these are the people I'm going to contact asking them to meet with us. So Mazen and Jesse Kumsia in Bethlehem. Mazen taught in the United States for a number of years. He's a botanist, an ethnobiologist. He taught at Tennessee, he taught at Yale, he taught at Duke. And when he retired, he went back with his $250,000 pension and began the Palestine Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainability at Bethlehem University. And he was just nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize this last year. His book about Palestinian Palestinian resistance is really an important book, which I'll be recommending that we read. He'll be one of the first people that we'll meet with. One of the most moving One of the most moving meetings that we'll have will be with these three people. George and Najwa, they're the bookends, are parents of Christine Saada. You see a picture of Christine. And in the middle, Rami Elhanan is a picture of Smadar. You see her picture on the far right. These two girls were killed. Um, Christine was killed by a hit by the Israeli military. They thought they were attacking terrorists, but they attacked George and Najwa's car, and Christine's body was riddled with bullets. And Smadar was killed in a West Jerusalem cafe by a Palestinian suicide bomber. Well, George and Najwa and Rami are part of a group called the Bereaved Parents Circle, or Bereaved Families Circle. And their goal is for their group, their organization, to not grow, meaning they've lost children or other family members to the violence. And so they work for human rights and liberation of Palestine because they know firsthand the death and violence that's taken
Hello.
place in their families. Yeah, hi, Mary.
I'm sorry.
Okay, good. So this is one of the most moving meetings that we'll have with George and Najwa and Rami. And I should say, by the way, that every one of these people who we're going to be meeting with, I'd say 85% of them we've hosted in Fort Wayne, and virtually all of them are good friends of ours. And so they look forward to the opportunity to meet with us. Abdel Fattah Abu Sroor um, studied as an engineer, so really a left brain guy. He studied as an engineer in France and had a position in engineering offered to him at the Sorbonne. And yet he turned it down to move back to the Aida refugee camp in Bethlehem, where he was raised, where he was born and grew up, and he started not an engineering school, but a cultural center, a center for training in theater and music and photography and the arts and drama. And so the Arawad Cultural Center in Bethlehem, Arawad means pioneers. So he sees the arts as human as a way for young people to transcend the walls that are built around Bethlehem and throughout the West Bank, and uh, uh, the world of the imagination, to transcend not only the walls that bind people and that keep people closed, but also just the idea of that the only way to respond to violence is through violence. And so you see some of their young people who write and design their own dramas. And if you look at the lower right-hand side, that's the entrance to the Ida refugee camp. That's the that's the entrance with this large key. And remember, whenever you see a key, it means the refugees' right of return. Because most Palestinian families have the keys to their ancestral homes. You remember in 1948, 750,000 Palestinians were booted out of their homes by the Israeli military, left to be refugees in their own country. So these families have their keys to their ancestral homes, longing for the right of return. So that's the key. This is a real powerful visit too, because we meet with some of the young people and we listen to the story of what it means to be a Palestinian refugee. Maybe you know of the British graffiti artist called Banksy. We don't know who he is, but he has built a hotel up here in the upper left. You see, right in the face of the wall, this 28-foot high wall that surrounds Bethlehem. He built this. It's called the Waldorf Hotel, not the Waldorf Hotel like in New York City, but the Waldorf. And he advertises it this way. He says it's got the worst view in the world. And so we go into the hotel and then we see their museum. So here's one of the exhibits of all the surveillance cameras and slingshots, but the surveillance cameras that the Israelis have posted not just in Israel, but also in the West Bank. So we'll spend an hour and a half or so inside the museum, inside the Waldorf Hotel. And you see some of the young people I've taken in the past in front of the graffiti on the side of the wall, on the Bethlehem side, because we walk along the wall. We take a walk. We take a walk along the inside of the wall here. And this is one of the pieces of graffiti. To exist is to resist. It's a very moving experience to walk inside the wall. Dahlia Kumsi is a new friend. She's one of the up and coming young leaders in Palestine. She lives in Beit Sahor, which is a suburb of Bethlehem, and she's a Palestinian lawyer, and she started the Balasan Initiative for Human Rights. And so what she does is she documents and human rights abuses for Palestinian prisoners in the South, and she documents also those kinds of activities of the Israelis that infringe upon human rights. So, for example, you see this um, document here that she published, Israel's intensified movement restrictions in the West Bank. She's really, like I say, one of the up and coming young leaders in Bethlehem. Here's our dear, dear friend, Daoud Nassar. Daoud lives in a farm outside of Bethlehem. It's a family farm. He and his sister and brother uh, own the farm. His grandparents bought this 100-acre farm over 100 years ago, about 110 years ago now, and they have the written deed. They have the deed in their hands for the farm, and they've paid taxes on it, their family, for the last 110 years, ever since they owned it. And yet the Israeli military says that it's disputed land, that it's really Israeli land. So they've been fighting an ongoing battle inside the Israeli courts for 30 years, trying to prove to the Israelis that it's their land. Um, they've had to have their land surveyed over 14 times. And just think about the legal costs and the surveying costs and all the rest, just to hold on to a piece of property for which they have the deed. So it's really an egregious example. Daud's a really dear friend of ours. I mean, very close friend. And you can see the theme of their farm. The two themes here you see learning hope, planting peace, and we refuse to be enemies. So he's open to dialogue with settlers and all the rest, but the settlers, it's their farm is on a hilltop, and the hilltops surrounding the farm are all now taken over by settlements. So his is the only piece of land on a hilltop south of Bethlehem that's not controlled by Israeli settlers and where there's a settlement built on it. And the Israelis want it very much. He talks about an American Zionist group who offered him a blank check for the 100 acres. And his answer, how do you sell your mother? So this is an important stop we make. And so we'll spend some time on the farm with Daoud and have lunch on the farm. Zugby as well is a dear friend. Zugby has Indiana connections. His wife's from South Bend. All four of his kids have gone either to Manchester University in North Manchester or Goshen College or Purdue. And his wife both have master's degrees from Notre Dame, and he gets back to Indiana often. He runs the WEAM Conflict Resolution Center in Bethlehem, and you can see on the left, he was the 2011 Peacemaker of the Year, the Global Peacemaker of the Year, and given an award by World Vision. You can see that his center on the right-hand side is right at the base of this 28-foot high wall. And you can see some of the stun grenades and rubber-coated bullets and others that have been picked up from the street outside his center or from inside their yard, all of which are made in the United States and used against Palestinians by the Israelis. Zugby and his team, they're the ones who take us on a tour of the wall. Issa Amro is a close friend. We just had him here this past April in Fort Wayne. He's a 2025 Nobel Peace Prize nominee as well. I'm on his board, actually. I'm on his Friends of Hebron board. This year, or well, next year, in this particular trip, we're going to spend a whole day in Hebron with Issa. So that way we're not rushing. You see on the left-hand side, Shahada Street. Picture in any town, picture in the town in which you live, the most bustling market, the most bustling street of retail and other kind of shops. That's what Shahada Street used to be in Hebron. When Israeli settlers came to Hebron, the Israeli military came and welded shut all the doors. So now it's a ghost town. This used to be like Taylor, like the bar street market on a Saturday morning. If you know what if okay. And the rest of you picture like a bustling marketplace. That's what Shuhada Street used to be. We'll walk up and down Shuhada Street. And over on the right, the infamous checkpoint 56. And so you see this woman here in the black, this Muslim woman walking. She's inside checkpoint 56. This is the end of Shahada Street. So if you'd walk up Shahada Street and come to the end, you'd find this checkpoint. She needs a special pass to be inside Shahada Street here to show that she lives here. She, she needs a special pass to exit and to enter. Only those with passes showing that they live inside can enter Shahada Street if you're a Palestinian. Isa works with young people and women to empower them to stand up against the resistance. So his organization, Youth Against Settlements, they provide security cameras. They provide little Polaroids so people can take pictures of uh, how they're being threatened. I like to talk about his resistance is very entrepreneurial. Whatever the need is, Issa's there. So what we'll do is we'll walk up a hill into his home and we'll meet with him in the courtyard of his home. And the Israeli military has built an outpost right on the other side of his home, and they regularly make incursions into his home and threaten him and harass him. They've beaten him. He's been in and out of the hospital because of injuries sustained by the Israeli military. So now let's take a look at Jerusalem. So that was in Bethlehem, south of Jerusalem, Bethlehem and Hebron. Those are some of the people we'll be meeting with there. If you take a look at the very bottom, you'll see the Jaffa Gate right in the center at the bottom. This is the entrance to the Christian quarter. Up here on the upper left-hand side, you'll see the entrance to the Muslim quarter. That's the Damascus Gate. But we're going to enter the Christian quarter here through the Jaffa Gate. Right here, do you see where that little eye with the circle is? The green circle down here at the bottom by the Jaffa Gate? That's where our hotel is. Like all real estate, I like to say, location, location, location. So we stay at the Gloria Hotel right inside the Jaffa Gate, which is really very, very important. So that way, during our free time, you have access to all these sights and sounds, religious sites, but also just the sights and sounds of the old city of Jerusalem, coffee shops and other kinds of shops. It's really a wonderful place to stay. I should have said in Bethlehem, we're staying just one block off of Manger Square, which is right at the heart of where we want to be too. So here's some Jerusalem sites. Upper left, you see the so-called Wailing Wall, the Western Wall, which holds back the plateau where you see the Dome of the Rock. And you see in the lower left the Al-Aqsa compound, where you have the Al-Aqsa Mosque here with the gray dome, and then the Dome of the Rock with the gold dome. Center in the bottom is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and at the top is the holy place for Christians where they believe Jesus was buried. Upper right-hand side, you see the Damascus Gate, which is the entrance into the Muslim quarter. And at the bottom right, you see our guide, Auni, who will take us on a tour inside the Dome of the Rock on the Al-Aqsa Mosque. I want to say a word about that. Since the year 2000 and the Second Intifada, tourists are not allowed inside the Dome of the Rock on the Al-Aqsa Mosque. But because we know the people at Sabeel in Jerusalem, the Palestine Liberation Theology Center, and we know Dr. Bernard Sabella, they're good friends with the Sheikh Al Aqsa, and they get us access into the Dome of the Rock on the Al Aqsa Mosque when 99% of tourists aren't allowed in. So we are able to get a tour of inside the two mosques in the old city. I should say, because she's on the call, Mary Siegel, this man, Omar Harami, is the head of the Sabeel Liberation Theology Center. Well, in the United States, there's a group called the Friends of Sabeel, North America, and Mary Siegel is on their board. So Mary is close friends with Omar and has known him for many years. I used to be the co-chair of the board of Friends of Sabeel, and Omar is a very, very dear friend of ours. We'll meet with Omar, but then this is a really important day, and I want to just spend a minute talking to you about it. Omar has a story of his own and tells us about Sabeel, Palestinian liberation theology. Remember, like Latin American liberation theology and feminist liberation theology and Native American liberation theology. Well, there's a Palestinian liberation theology. Omar will tell us about that. But then he takes us on a tour of a neighborhood in East Jerusalem that the Israelis are wanting to destroy so that they can build a theme park. And it's called the neighborhood of Silwan. And you see in the upper right-hand side, it's built on the side of a hill, this neighborhood. And look at all the eyes. Look at all the eyes that are painted. Well, this is done by a joint project with young people from the neighborhood of Silwan and an art group out of California. And they named this project Eyewitness Silwan. And they paint the eyes of various activists in the Silwan neighborhood, but also of other eyes. Rachel Corrie's eyes are in here. Um, Che Guevara's eyes are in here. If you look up at the top of this picture, you'll see George Floyd's eyes pictured here. So I'm only showing you a snapshot of some of the eyes, but all along this hillside, there are eyes painted on the side of houses. And when you look at from the old city of Jerusalem, when you look out at the neighborhood of Silwan, you see these eyes looking back at you. What's the story that they're telling is the message. And then we visit the man down below with his wife, Fakhri and Amna Diab. And again, Omar is taking us to these places. Fakhri is an activist in the neighborhood of Silwan, one of the neighborhood's leaders. And Fakhri has had his home destroyed Valentine's Day 2024. We visited him, Mary. I think didn't we visit him right after that, right? At the end of February that last year. Mary was with me last year when we were there right after the war began. So this and Pam was with me this last year in May when we were there. So this is a very moving talk. I took this picture while he was talking to us this past May. So he stands amidst the rubble of his home and telling us what Israelis are doing to Silwan.
Right. I was there and met him. I think it was right after his house was destroyed.
We were there 2 weeks after his house was destroyed in
Yeah.
into February 2024, Mary.
Yeah.
Another feature of our trip that not many do is we visit with this gentleman, E. Jahalin. Whoops. Let me go back. E is a Bedouin. So we talk with Abdel Fattah Abu Sroor about the plight of the refugees. Well, it's important that we talk about the Bedouin the Bedouin population. So he lives in this, you see in the upper left-hand side, that's part of his village of Khan al-Amr, Bedouin village. And we'll go and meet with Eid, and he'll serve us some tea and coffee, and we'll hear him tell us about the Bedouins. They want to move him. They were moved 50 or 60 years ago from the Judean desert. Remember, these are nomads, right? They're shepherds. They have sheep and goats and camels. Well, they were moved from the Judean desert up outside of Jerusalem on this hillside 50, 60 years ago. Now they want to move them from here because it's on another hillside that the Israelis want, a prime real estate right outside Jerusalem. They want to move them to a smaller area on top of a garbage dump on the outskirts of Jerusalem. So even this, you see these tin shacks, tin and wool and leather. This is under a destruction order for the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years by the Israeli government. And you see these children down below. These children come from what, 20 kilometers away across the desert to attend school. This is the one Bedouin school in the region. And so these children come from all over to attend school at Khan al-Amr. And you see this wall here of the school that is made out of, when we're there, you can see it. You can't see it very well here. Sometimes you can see them sticking through, but these are made by stacking tires on top of each other and using that as the base and then putting plaster around the tires. So the tires become the foundation of the walls of the school. And so we'll spend some time with Eid at Khan al-Amr and hear their story. Jeff Halper is a Jewish anthropologist born in Hibbing, Minnesota, the hometown, by the way, of Bob Dylan. Jeff was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize this past year for the second time, this year with Issa Amro, remember the man from Hebron. Jeff began the organization, the Israel Committee Against House Demolitions. And he'll give us a political analysis. He's an anthropologist, but also a political analyst. And so he's a Jewish resistor. He's on the Jewish Israeli left. And so he'll give us the perspective of the Israeli left about what's happening. He's been arrested. He's been beaten. He was part of one of the Gaza flotillas. He walks the talk. And Truth in Advertising, I'm co-chair of his board, ICAD USA, here in the United States. Again, all these people with whom we're meeting are good friends of ours. Amira Haas. We had Amira here a few years ago in Fort Wayne. Amira is a Jewish Israeli woman, the only Jewish Israeli reporter who has lived in Gaza. She now lives in Ramallah, and she writes for the Jewish Israeli leftist newspaper Haaretz. And as it says here, she's a daughter of Holocaust survivors. So again, she's a voice of the Israeli left. So it's important that we hear these stories too of Jewish Israeli voices of conscience who stand with Palestine. And she's a regular on Democracy Now, as you can see here. Sahar Francis has become one of my real dear buddies. Again, we're in Ramallah now. She runs the Adamir Prisoner Support Group. So she goes and works with and stands with Palestinian children and youth and Palestinian women who've been arrested and are languishing in Israeli military prison. And she becomes their voice. The other reason I like to meet with Adamir is because a few years ago, the Israeli government declared 6 Palestinian organizations terrorist organizations. This is one of them, the Adamir Prisoner Support Group. So it's important that we in the West stand with them to let them know that their work is not in vain. She works closely with the United Nations as well. I like to meet with Sam Bahor because he brings a unique perspective. You know, a lot of these folks are lawyers or educators or they're religious types. Sam is a businessman. Sam comes from Youngstown, Ohio. And in the mid 90s, in the heyday of the Oslo Peace Accords, he thought this would be wonderful. I picked up my family and moved to Palestine, and I could be part of the creation of a new Palestinian society, you know, with business and all the rest. Well, he found out early on that it wasn't to be, and that the Israelis didn't want Palestine to develop their own economy. He talks to us now, then he talks to our groups. I mean, he's a human rights activist, but he comes at it from his work with business. And so it's an important voice to hear. He's very clear, no nonsense, and we come away knowing more than what we did when we got there. I mean, it's really a good presentation. The picture on the left here is when Munther Isaac was in Bethlehem as the pastor of Christmas Lutheran Church. You remember a Christmas and a half ago, 2 Christmases ago, the Christmas Lutheran Church in Bethlehem went viral because of this manger scene, Christ under the rubble. They have all the traditional olive wood baby Jesus and Mary and Joseph and the wise men and shepherds, but they placed it under rubble because this was right after Gaza was under genocide. So he has become, Munther has become the premier voice for Palestinian Christians. He's now the pastor of a church in Ramallah, and we'll meet with him and some of their members. Also in Ramallah, since 2015, Ramallah, the city of Johannesburg in South Africa, entered into a sister city relationship with Ramallah. And they built this large statue of Nelson Mandela with his hand upraised to show their solidarity with each other. And remember, Nelson Mandela, as well as Desmond Tutu, were both ardent, strong supporters of Palestine. And in fact, I would say that South Africa, along with Ireland, lead the world in their support for Palestine. We'll go to Nablus, and you see our friends Arub Jamle, she's on the left, and then you see Eamon Shaka on the right with Arub, he's on the right. They lead the Multipurpose Resource Community Center. And why is this important? Because they're in the old city of Nablus. Remember, I'm saying that what we're trying to do on these trips is get to as many Palestinian villages, towns that we can. Bethlehem, Hebron, Ramallah, Jericho we'll get to, and we'll also get to Nablus. In the Multipurpose Resource Community Center, They have a kindergarten. They have a women's center. They have a medical and dental clinic. I had tooth issues 2 times ago when I was there, and the dentist on staff there took a look at me and sent me for x-rays. And I mean, a really thriving dental clinic, as well as a community heritage foundation where they work on restoring homes in Nablus. And they're in the old city of Nablus where they serve the kindergarten and the women's center, serve families where the annual average income is less than $2,000 a year. So a visit to the dental clinic might cost a family 5 shekels, which is $1.50. So this is Pam, you're in this group, right? Yep, there you go. So this is some pictures of our group. Upper left-hand side at Iyad Bernat's house. In the middle at the Dome of the Rock. Lower left at the Arawad Center. Upper right outside of the Wiam Center. You notice the P stub, that's a Banksy. That's a Banksy piece of graffiti. And then with Daoud Nassar and his family, Attentive Nations. Here are some of the resources I'll recommend. You don't have to write them all down now, but some of them are films and some of them are things to read. We'll talk more about them. And by the way, I'll share this Zoom recording with you too, so you'll have this. And there are others. I mean, I chose these. There are other really good resources. And then here's the information about the trip. Have you all seen the handout? Have you all seen the flyer with this information? I just thought I would include it to just remind you. So we don't do any national advertising. I send this information out to my friends around the country. That's how some of you have heard about this trip. Um, but um, I rely on word of mouth. So there's a decreasing cost with as many people as we can get. So we want to get at least 10, but as soon as we hit 15, notice how the price drops precipitously. So if we can get 15 people to come, that's really the optimum, right? We can go with 8 or 9, but it would be optimal to get 10 and then really 15. And one of the things I didn't do was talk about the Jordan extension. And I didn't have the slides here, but our Jordan extension this year, it's an extra 3.5 days. And we're going to go to Wadi Rum, which is the Lawrence of Arabia desert in Jordan. And we'll camp there and take a camel and or a jeep ride throughout Wadi Rum. And then we'll also go to that beautiful rose red city of Petra, which is one of the 8 modern wonders of the world. So when I lived in Jordan for a year, I camped in Wadi Rum a couple times, and I used to get to Petra regularly because when I used to work for Prince Hassan, whenever there were visiting dignitaries or scholars or others coming in from the United States, especially, or Europe, who spoke English, I'd get a car and a driver and a guide, and I'd take these folks down to Petra, and I was their kind of host for the day, from Amman to Petra and then back again. So you see the prices above, and you can see how the Palestine land cost drops precipitously once we get to 10, and then again once we get to 15.
Is it reversed? Should it be reversed?
Well, or it increases, yeah.
Yeah, should that be 29? 95 if they're 20, just those two.
So if it's 15 to 19 travelers, it's 29.95. And if it's 10 to 14 travelers, it's 34.95. I guess I could have put it in decreasing order.
Yeah.
I thought I'd put it in, I put it this way this time,
Uh,
Mary. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Then also the optional Jordan extension for the 3.5 days. And so, yeah. And yes, Taylor, you're muted then, Taylor. So
Hi. So,
good to
you
see you.
good to see you all too. This all looks really great, and thank you so much for putting this together. I know that you're a pro at this. I know from my perspective, I would really love for some young people to get involved in this trip and attend. There is a question on scholarships available to help cover costs.
Yeah.
Is there scholarships or grants that are available or that we can apply for to help cover these costs?
Really, I mean, I wish we could say yes, but we don't. Not through our organization. I mean, we could put a word out to people, Taylor, but the fact of the matter is we're a small group and um, yeah, what we found is that GoFundMe pages, families and friends, if people are religious, their faith communities or other organizations that they belong to, I think people can, I think people can, what we found is that the young people in the past who want to go have been pretty resourceful in raising funds. But with apologies, we don't have extra monies to give scholarships.
Oh, no worries. Just wanted to make sure I had that down because it was a question.
Yeah.
Um, and then I see down there a single room supplement. How many people are typically in a room if it's not a single room?
Two.
Two. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the cost between three or four in a room and two in a room, I mean, three or four in a room and two in a room is negligible.
Okay.
So, yeah. On occasion, we've had to put three in a room just because, let's say that somebody wanted, if you didn't want a single room, but we had an extra person, it would have cost me an extra $975, and so we put that extra person in with maybe a couple of their friends or something, or people who wouldn't mind. But for the most part, it's two in a room. I'd say 99% of the time it's two in a room, and then are the single supplement.
Okay.
I do want to say that we do have pre-tour meetings so that you're not kind of going into the tour cold. So we would schedule Zoom meetings where those of us who are traveling would meet like this on Zoom, and we would talk about, I would show the map, for example, of the settlements and the wall and the checkpoints and all the rest, and we'd talk about the political situation. Maybe we would highlight some of the people who we're going to visit with a little bit more in depth. We would talk about maybe some of the seminal documents. For example, I mentioned that 2009 Kairos document that the Palestinian Christians, you know, wrote and offered to the West. Well, just last week, Palestinian Christians came out with a new Kairos document, 2025, and and so that's a really important statement that where they say this is who we are. And let me just on a personal note say I was in touch with a couple of people who were at this conference in Bethlehem last week. This was a group of Christians from around the world and others who support Palestinian justice. And there's a good friend of ours. His name is uh, uh, David, who works with the Methodist Church, and um, and with the UN. And he's been working at this for 30 or 40 years. And he said that the Palestinians now, in terms of long range planning, their long range is 4 to 6 months. They're not sure if they can survive. This Trump, nobody hears about Gaza anymore. Nobody hears about the West Bank anymore. Now their sights are turned to Ukraine or, here issues here in the United States. Trump declared peace, Netanyahu declared peace, and so there's peace. It's become normalized. Do you know that the UN said that, and other UN agencies and Human Rights Watch and others said that within the last 44 days since ceasefire was declared, Israel has violated the so-called ceasefire 500 times and killed more than 400 Palestinians. Think about that. And yet it's not in the news anymore. Not in the news anymore. So this normalization process is a tragedy for our friends in Palestine. So it's important for us to keep talking, keep getting the word out.
Michael, I had a question in the chat. What are the dates again of this?
Hi, Tom. Yeah. Let me take you back to the front. Good to see you, Tom.
Yes, thank you. Good to be seen.
Can you see that now?
Yeah, 6 to 18th. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, 6 to 18 and Jordan extension to Wadi Rum and Petra. Yeah, I'll need to
18 to
update
21.
this
Got
this
it.
presentation is 18th to 21st.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um, there are others who've shown interest, so I don't want you to think it's just you four. I saw Sherry Howie on here before, and there were a few others who've shown interest. So I'm 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 hopeful that we'll be able to get to the 10. I'm really wanting to get to that 15 because that really drops the cost. You also notice, by the way, let me go back down here. You notice that you do have to add your airfare to and from Tel Aviv. So from Chicago, for example, I checked just before I got on with you all, and it's about $1,150 airfare. Travel insurance, other things. You can get by with an extra probably $500 in spending money, for the one meal a day and, any kind of personal costs that you want to, souvenirs or anything like that. Mary?
Michael,
Yeah, please, Mary, go ahead.
yeah, I was saying if one does the Jordan extension, wouldn't you advise that you do a one-way into Tel Aviv and then return from Amman?
Absolutely. No, for sure. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that, Mary. I should have said that up front. I guess I'm just, yeah. I was assuming that people wouldn't be ordering tickets yet, but for sure you would fly into Tel Aviv and then fly home from Amman. hmm You don't want to cross back over the bridge. It's just a hassle. So Mary's been there a number of times. Pam, this would be your fifth time with me. Do you have anything you want to add that might be helpful?
Um, just that anyone who's worried about safety, I've never felt unsafe there at all. Um, the people that you meet, the speakers, as well as just, shopkeepers that you meet, it's such a small place that these people sort of become your friends. And you go once, you go twice, and then you want to keep going because you want to see them again. Um, and I don't know what else I'd say, I guess. It's just a really worthwhile trip. Very inspiring and yeah.
I was,
Thanks, Pam.
yeah, I
Go
was
ahead.
going to say that the people that Michael knows and that we meet with it's just a phenomenal trip. I've been on a couple different types of trips to the West Bank and to Jerusalem, and this is really very special because of the people that we meet with. And if you are going, try to make time to go on the Jordan experience because it's just so beautiful to go to Petra.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've been there, Mary. I mean, I know that it's, I normally don't do this. I mean, the Jordan extension I've done once before in my 19 trips. This is only the second time that I've done Jordan. I did Istanbul a couple times. This time I'm
Mm.
doing Jordan, and it's because I miss it, I miss it. Yeah.
Mm.
So Petra will be quite phenomenal.
And Wadi Rum, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Wadi Rum, of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's where have you arranged for us to stay in Wadi Rum? Is that a camp?
It will be in like little yurts, I think, something like
Uh-huh.
that.
Oh, that's great. Wonderful.
To wake up in the morning to the sunrise over the purplish, pinkish, gorge, and to look out and experience the sunrise is pretty phenomenal.
Mm.
Any other questions? Uh,
One more. So
yeah,
sorry.
please, Taylor.
Um, Visas. So I see there's a Jordan visa needed, but is there a visa needed to get into Palestine? I didn't think so, but
No.
okay.
But since January 1st, there is what's called an ETA hyphen IL, electronic something or other, and an IL Israel. It costs $18. And that's new as of January 1st. And so you'll say that you're a tourist, you'll apply. And we'll talk about all what our script at customs and passport control. But for those people, again, this is sort of an informational meeting. When we meet for real, those who have said that they want to travel with us, then we'll talk about some of the forms that you have to fill out and some of those things. But it's not a serious procedure. It's just something that you got a hoop that you have to jump through.
Okay.
I
What,
guess. Go ahead, Tom.
Michael?
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
what's the after the Palestine portion of the trip, the you were saying that Wadi Rum was like how are people getting down there? Is that a overland bus or
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So what we'll do is we'll get up early in the morning, our last day, and get to the bridge by 8 o'clock because to cross the Allenby or King Hussein Bridge, you want to get there early because it just is can be a morass of humanity. So we'll get there when it opens, and then the bus will transfer to a bus in Jordan. So we'll have transportation to the bridge, and then we'll cross the bridge on a little mini bus that the Israelis and Jordanians provide. In fact, it's kind of an interesting thing to cross over. You get to I'm going to tell you more than you want to know. You get to the Israeli checkpoint at the bridge, and they check you through. Then you take a little bus to the Jordanian side. Then you take a little bus to the entry area to Jordan. So two different little buses, vans, and then we'll get on our bus in Jordan that'll take us to Wadi Rum and then to Petra. So yeah, we'll have a guide and a bus in or like a mini bus probably in Jordan that'll take us.
great, thank you.
Will we be spending the night in Petra, or is it just a day thing?
One night in Wadi Rum and a night in Petra.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. And we'll stay within walking distance of Petra, I think. So and
There's
we'll
a
have a
Petra Forum is there, I know, right?
yeah, right. And there's a couple of others.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, I'm not one for setting hard and fast dates. But as you decide that this is something you want to do, it would be helpful for me to know as soon as possible. Taylor, for those of your folks who, as you're spreading the word to folks about the trip, um, I think it'd be helpful to know by January 15th. Because then we want to have our 3 meetings or so, with the people who are signed up, and that way we'll have a sense of who's going and how many and what the cost is. And the breakdown will be 3 payments. The first payment will be a non-refundable deposit, and then it'll be kind of half and half the last 2 payments. And the final payment will be probably right around, I mean, this is give or take now, okay?
Hmm.
But probably right around the 1st of May will be the final payment. So we'll
And
have
who
some,
do they need to pay?
well, they'll be paid, you'll be writing a check to me.
Okay.
So, but all that information will be in a contract and all that sent out to the people who are interested in going, who are confirmed. So if we can kind of shoot for January the 15th as sort of our, forgive the term, but kind of drop dead date.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, so Tom and Mary, as you talk to people, please, and all I'll say is please help us spread the word with your friends.
Will do.
All right, let me stop the. Oh, Sherry Howie's still there and Brett Biggs is still there. Okay, let's see the. Oh yeah, Tom. What are the dates? Okay, yeah, I gotcha. So, are there any other questions that I can be helpful with answering?
Once we confirm people, do you want me to just send you an email about who said yes that they're going and give you their email address?
Yeah, yeah, Taylor, and for the people here in Fort Wayne, I might end up having an in-person meeting because I know there are 3 or 4 folks who are working during the day and couldn't make this meeting. So I might have an in-person meeting maybe sometime in December.
Okay.
So yeah. And again, I mean this is a information only, I'm not you're not signing anything in blood or anything like that now. I wanted to hold sort of an informational meeting and get this actually on recorded.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hmm. And
Is
although
is
and
is, is Anita from she was on our trip to Johannesburg, South Africa. Is she thinking of coming?
Anita Dorch,
Yeah, from Fort Wayne?
yeah, I don't know. She knows
Oh,
about the meeting today, but I think she'd be a great addition, wouldn't she?
oh yeah.
I think she'd be great. I know Anita.
Yeah.
You can put a filler in there, Mary, and then I can put a filler and be like, hey.
I
And
know.
Taylor, I wrote an article about our South Africa trip that is in the Ink Spot, in the present Ink Spot.
Oh,
So take a look at
okay.
that.
I will. I will.
Our hotels are chosen because of their location. So I want you to know that we're right at the heart of things. In Ramallah, we're right next door to Mother Isaac's Church, for example.
Are we staying at the Royal Court?
No,
Oh,
we could stay at the Royal Court. I love there, but uh, uh, I'll tell you that's the place I mentioned. But when Munther said, "Well, there's a hotel right next to my church," I thought, "Well, we'll stay there." So
what's the name of
What's,
what's the
it's
name
yeah.
of the
called the Beauty Inn.
ah, okay.
The other thing I want to say is that although it looks like we're going to be busy, 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 there we do schedule in free time for you to just roam this, Bethlehem, roam the old city of Jerusalem. Most people, I don't think I have it on here. I'll have to let you know this. Most people try to arrive a day or two early. And so, I'll let you know what that cost is. Uh, I'll let you know what that cost is if you arrive a day or two early. And, if seeing the holy sites is something that's important to you, well, we can schedule, a trip to the Galilee for you on a day or something like that. Um, so, and Sherry, I see that you're having trouble with your Audio. Oh, okay. Yes, you're definitely going. Okay, that's good. Okay, thanks, Sherry. And Brett, I don't know if Brett, if you're on or what that's about. Um, okay, gang. Any other questions? You have my email address. If you think of something that you need to ask, please reach out. I'm happy to answer. And help us spread the word, please.
Yes, will do. Thank you so much again, Michael.
Well, you're welcome. And it's good to connect with you, Taylor.
Yes.
And I'm sorry about the scholarship money. It's just
Oh, I just need to know so I could do some searching so I can say, hey, these are things I found for people. So
all right,
it's
good.
just information so that I can know how to progress
And
forward.
were you at Kelly Thompson's
I
thing?
was. I
I
was.
I was going to make it, but then I bought a ticket. But one of our friends here in Indiana, for those of you who are on the call, um, is the only Indiana politician that supports Palestinian rights, and she's running for Congress in our district
Mm.
next year. And I had something come up, Taylor, that I couldn't make it, but I had my ticket in hand and was ready to come. And anyway,
Oh,
so
it was
I
great. Her speech was phenomenal. Like as soon as it ended, I think everybody was like, "What can I do? How can I get going? What can I start to do to take action to help support you?" It was truly she's running like a mother, and that's her slogan, and it was great.
she's running like a mother. That's right.
Yes.
All
So,
right. Well, thank you, everyone, and be in touch. And like I say, if you have any questions, just reach out. Thanks,
thanks.
everybody.
Yep, have a
Uh-huh.
good day.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.